Welcome, everybody. This is Larry Bisig with Bisig Public Relations Television. We are here with none other than Terry Miners. Terry.
What's up, Bill, man?
I like that.
Larry Bisig.
Good to see you, brother. Good to see you.
Let's tell everybody, too, we've known each other for most of our lives. However, he's 20 years younger than I. I don't know how that works.
There's truth to that. I'm not sure how often Terry gets interviewed, so I'm just going to try to do my best. Terry, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Glad to be here.
You know what a lot of people I don't think remember or know are the days of your early days of radio. We were talking about that earlier. How'd you make it to Louisville?
I worked there a couple of years, 3.5 years in Lexington, and then helped my brother Lou with a little project in Indianapolis that was a grocery store thing he was opening. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take some time off and go do that. So I did it for about a month, and then I was miserable. And I called WLRS here in Louisville, Louisa Henson, who saved me. She saved me from being a grocer, which I was for 1 month, stacking cigarettes. We don't have Diet Pepsi, ma'am, and you can't smoke those cool Filter Kings right here at our store. So Louisa Henson did hire me as a promotion person, and I said, you know, I think I've been on the air long enough. I'd rather just be behind the scenes and not be on the air. And then, of course, after I'm at WLRS for 3 hours, somebody calls in sick or get in there, you know how to do it. And so there you go.
Okay, Morning Sickness, was that the name of the show?
Then they put me on a morning show with Ron Clay, and then on WLRS in 1981 at the end of that. And then we did that for a year and a half, and then QMF stole us away.
How difficult was it to lose Ron Clay?
It was horrific, but I had already left for WHAS. That was the toughest thing for me was to... I knew that the afternoon show came open at WHAS, and I thought, I'm 28 years old now, I want to grow up. And the big talk station has an opening, so I sent the boss a letter, 84 reasons why you should hire Terry Miners. Wow. And I just made up 84 things, da-da-da-da-da-da. And later the guy said, as soon as I opened that and read it, he said, I'm going to hire this guy. And then I had to tell Ron.
What did Ron say to you?
Ron was mad at me, miserable, very angry with me. And he was a mellow guy. And then when I told Ron on Monday, Memorial Day, he was hung up, and then I did not hear from him for several years.
Wow. And then he passed away from cancer?
He did, about 5 years later.
Did you make amends with Ron before he left?
I tried. That's a tough question. I'm going to answer you honestly. Ron died, and he was still mad at me. Someone called, a woman I knew got a hold of me, and she said, my daughter's a nurse at that place where Ron is. He's not going to make it. She said, your buddy's not going to make it. And she said, it's close. And so I figured out how to call and figured out where it was and called. And he got on the phone. I said, hey, bud, I'm sorry about your challenge. And he sounded really weak. And I talked to him and I said, we just had such a great, glorious ride together. And he said, well, thanks for calling.
Wow.
And he was dead a day or two later.
You've touched anybody who's anybody in this town you have been in communication with. Let me try an exercise.
Okay.
One word to describe the following people.
Okay.
Okay. Let's start with Coach Patino.
Loyal.
Tom Jurich.
Fiercely loyal, that's 2 words. But I mean, they're the same person when it comes to that. They're loyal people. Now, I've had my issues with Jurich over the years.
What was the nature of those issues?
Well, he was very, protective of his fiefdom at the University of Louisville. So if he thought that I wrote something online that he thought was over the top, or said something on the air, whatever, then he'd get mad at me and I'm like, hey, okay, well, I'm doing my job. But I didn't take that personally. That's a guy defending his turf. If someone throws paint all over the front of your building, that's the way you're going to feel. It's an attack that you sense as an attack. It turns out maybe it's somebody who's not right upstairs who's just doing something crazy and it's nothing personal against Larry Bisig. But Tom was hyper protective of his fiefdom, and so a few times we got into it, and then he wouldn't talk to me for a while. But at our cores, we love each other. We were always able to work it out.
How about Congressman Yarmouth?
I think he is. I hate using one word, but I think he's devoted. Okay, I'll just use that word. But what I mean by that is he has his causes in his mind and he works tirelessly at it. John's an interesting guy because he's rich. He was born into a wealthy family. He could be a
Son
guy.
of Stanley Yarmouth. And
Yes.
all of those boys have done very well.
Exactly, and they're all great guys. The brothers that I know are
Yep.
terrific, and John's wife, Kathy's wonderful.
Yep.
John's son, Aaron. I just love the whole
Yep.
family. They're great people. But my point is, John could just play golf all the time,
Yeah.
but he's in there busting it for his issues, and I respect that.
Greg Fisher.
I think he is very determined. I'll give him that word. Determined. I like the mayor a lot. He doesn't show his cards as much as other people. He's a tough interview for me because he keeps it close. It's hard to reel him in about personal
Really?
issues and other things. Yeah, I mean, it is for me. There might be other interviewers who are just better at it, but that's, again, my personality and the interview subject. Think of a pot and a lid. You know, not every lid fits on every pot. So sometimes you immediately engage somebody and it's like, boom, we're going to have a great relationship on the air because we just connect. But Greg's one of the ones I've just had a little trouble with fitting that pot on that lid.
Governor Bevan.
He's one of the guys I immediately took to because, well, this is interesting. He told me, oh, I got to give you a word, don't I? I'm going to call him, well, I don't want to make it sound mean, but persistent. I mean, again, it's the same thing. He's driven. That's the word for Bevan. Driven. He, before he ran against Senator Mitch McConnell, drove his SUV around the state trying to meet people because he was planning on making a run, and he listened to me on the radio. So when I first, and he emailed me or something, said, hey, can I come on? I'm going to be a candidate for, I said, sure. I didn't know him from Adam. And he and I don't socialize or anything like that, but we know each other from studio talk and some private stuff. We've had lunch together before, several years ago, long before he was governor. But that's the only time I ever remember. No, I saw him at a party, a derby party one time, and he walked in and he looked like he was surprised to see me. He was like, hey, Guff. But because we don't see each other in personal surroundings, we see each other in the laboratory that is an interview room. But what I love about him is he said, I drove around and I listened to you a lot, so I feel like I know your personality. And so immediately we were able to ping pong it back and forth really well. And I like interviewing him in person like this because he gets into it. And a lot of governors prior to him were a little more of that close, keep the cards close. And then if they're on the phone, they can always say, I'm busy.
Yeah.
But Bevan is great because he rolls it out there and you poke him back and say, well, but the other people say such and such here. And then he can get amped up about it, and I love his passion.
How about Leader McConnell?
I really like Senator McConnell too, but I don't know him that well. I like.
You spend a lot of time. You spend a lot of time on the air with the senator.
But the word I'm going to use here, because I don't really know him that personally, even though I have had dinner with him before and went to a football game with him before. I'm going to call him a strategist. He is the most masterful strategist I've ever seen. It's like he already knows whatever day you're watching this video on, he already knows what's going to happen tomorrow and the next day. But I like it about Senator McConnell that he knows who he is, knows his strategy, and those people fire all those arrows at him, pow, 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 and he just pulls them out and keeps walking.
John Schnatter.
He is intense. And, you know, I've known him personally for a long time, but I haven't talked to him in several years. But he was intense when I first met him.
That seems odd.
I think over the
Why
last
is that?
so many years, I don't know what, I think he's isolating
off?
No, I don't think so. No, John's great to me. I'll tell you something great about him in a second. Let me finish on this, his intensity. He is a guy, you remember the movie Terminator? The Terminator walks in and what is it? That screen goes and it you know, qualifies, figures out the situation, you know, mechanically everywhere it looks or whatever, the Terminator. That's Schnatter. I flew out to Boulder, Colorado with him one time, just on a whim. He goes, hey, you want to go? Yeah. Why not? Out there, we go into a store. This is I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, whatever. We go in there, and it's like these kids are working. They're not really sure who that is. But he walks in, and he just takes over the store, and he's opening the ovens. His wife Annette is with us too, and they're both opening the ovens. They're looking to make sure they're doing what's right. Those boxes aren't in the right place. This should be here. This should be there. He sees everything in the room and knows how it should be organized so that it works most effectively. I love that about Schnatter. Now. He's got a lot more pressure on him now because I think all this U of L stuff has added a burden on it. And of course, he knows I'm friends with Patino and Jurich, so that might be a little bit of a chasm. But John's, he's got a good heart because I've seen it in action. Somebody emailed me and said, my family's having a real struggle. Our kid's in the grocer, it's now called Norton Children's Hospital. Our kid is struggling here, such and such is happening. We don't have money. Do you know anybody who could help us just feed our family here while we're here? We're in from whatever town, somewhere out in Kentucky. So I thought, well, I know Schnatter. So I just called him and said, hey, give me the name of one of your managers so I can go get a bunch of coupons and give them to this family. And Schnatter says to me, where are you? I said, I'm at my house. He goes, I'll be right over. So about 5-6 minutes later, this Batmobile thing comes flying up my driveway, some car that costs more than my house. And I get in, and Schnatter and I go down to the grocer, and I go and find this guy. And then I introduced him to Papa John, and he takes the dad aside. I talked to the mom and the kids. They had multiple kids there, but one of them was sick and in the hospital. I talked to them for a few minutes. Schnatter talked to the guy over on the side, and then we left. I never asked him what he did for them, but I know something good happened that day.
That says a lot.
That's right. So no matter what people want to say about somebody, they don't see the benevolent side. They don't see what Patino did when he was here. I was on his foundation, for the Daniel Patino Foundation, and we gave away hundreds of thousands of dollars here. And I would walk into places and hand them $10,000, $20,000, these kids' charities in the West End and other places in town here, mostly West End, but some South End stuff mostly is where we keyed everything. And I'd walk in and say, this is from the Patino Foundation. And people would look at it, and they'd look at me, and they'd look back at it, and then people shake or start crying.
Wow. Do you feel for Coach?
Yeah, I do. I do, but because I know that down deep, he's that guy, the one that sends that money out. And he's taken care of so many people. The Minority family, I mean, he reset their lives for them. And he's done so much. He's given away so much to other people. People just have no idea. But when you don't have much information, you're just like the McConnell haters on Twitter. You have your little myopia, your little target that you see, and you can't see outside your blinders. And so the best thing to do is, I don't like you, so I'll shoot an arrow into you.
No.
When it's like, step back, there's more to that story.
What is Louisville really all about right now, and where is our community headed?
I love Mayor Fisher's compassionate city slogan. I wish people would stick to it more often. We have so much violence, it worries me. It's like, I can't believe that we don't plant a flag into this murder stuff and then figure out what the hell are we going to do. This has to stop.
How do you want to stop it?
I want to pull more people, more resources west of 9th Street.
Flex platoons. Captain Conrad's vision of, well, I don't want to get too deep in the police state because I don't know how to do it.
Right.
What did you think about the governor's prayer concept?
That's good. And even
did you ask him about that?
I did. I've asked him about it multiple times.
What did he say?
And he will say, well, that's not the whole thing. He said, people are trying to frame it up as though that's the whole entire resolution of how to stop murders. He said, that's just the beginning. But the first thing you have to do is pull people out of their homes, put them together, hold hands, get to know each other. Oh, your name's Miranda. Tell me about you. That there's not enough of that goes on in our life. You and I are lucky. We're raised, I knew your mom and dad. We were raised by, people who told us to get a job, told us to be in at 10 o'clock. I mean, there are a lot of parents today that just don't have the skill set they need to just set up parameters for kids. A boy wants to hear a man say, get your ass in this house at 10 o'clock at night. But people find it indelicate to say that out loud. But really, that's what we need. We need structure. This whole thing of J-Town High School, where you see the kid ramming the cop up against the wall. That drives me crazy when they're characterized as kids. You ever seen a high school football team? How big are those guys on the lines for any high school football team? Those aren't kids, those are men. And when a man grabs a cop and rams him up against the wall, we've got a problem, because mom and dad aren't telling this man-child, sit your ass down in that seat. We're already getting free school, free lunch, free books, Sit down and shut up.
We had a member of the school board in here about a month ago, and they are not for police in schools. That board is not for it.
I worry about all these kids, because 99.999% of them are good kids who just want to learn. But when you have a disruptive force that is powerful enough to do that kind of stuff, we've all seen these videos of people attacking teachers. Well, these teachers, some are 4 feet tall. Who's there to protect them? You have to have somebody there who's going to apply some discipline, because some parents are not doing it or aren't even present.
Amen. Last word is Terry Miners. Terry Miners has done more for the city of Louisville than anybody I know, at least as much. I can't think of anybody. Terry,
well, thanks, man. I really appreciate your kind words and your support over all this time.
It's the truth, and you do a lot for us. And that's on 84 WHAS.
Every afternoon.
Weekdays, every afternoon.
And I want to remind people, these are my opinions. You don't need to scream at your laptop screen or your phone. These are my opinions, and yours are welcome as well. But that's what makes the world great, is that we all have different ideas. Let's push them all together and make some beautiful salad and get this culture moving forward with less venom and violence.
Beautiful. Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome,
Appreciate
brother.
you being here. It means a lot. Thanks so much. We'll be back. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Larry Bisig with Bisig Public Relations Television.